very good afternoon to you. Welcome to World at Noon on Osrc TV. I am Obi Chukwemeka Oti. Ondo State Government, through its Teaching Service Commission, TASCOM, has declared for deserving teachers. Ondo State Government Honorable Lucky Ayedatiwa has ordered of waste management policies and operations in the state, particularly in Akura, the state capital. The governor handed down the directive during a meeting with the Commissioner for Environment, Mr. Sunday Akinwale, in Akura. Ayedatiwa expressed dissatisfaction with the state of the cleanliness in the state, especially the capital, saying that Akura must be returned to its old status as one of the cleanest states in capitals in Akura. In Nigeria, our correspondent Kule Ario reports.
Years back, Akure, the Ondo State capital, was widely considered as the second cleanest state capital in Nigeria after Calabar, Cross River State. Thanks to meticulous combination of effective waste management and urban maintenance became the order of the day as heaps of refuse dotted strategic areas of the state capital. Not satisfied with this, the state government decided to review waste management policies and operations in the state. The state governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa, emphasized its administration and various dump sites within the state capital. Speaking during the inspection, the commissioner, who said Governor Ayedatiwa was concerned about the healthy living of the citizens, urged the people to live in a healthy environment to avoid contracting contagious diseases.
Thank God Almighty that Mr. Governor, that is Honorable Ayedatiwa, decided that vehemently we must go against any system at all that will continue to bring waste into a public domain. And an approval for emergency intervention was given on all our major roads in Akure metropolis, not just for waste, but for
as the government would do everything possible to make the environment more people-friendly.
You can find out that remarkable achievement and improvement has been recorded on our highways, most especially from A Division down to Cathedral and even to Oloko, Azix, Ondo Road. All the illegal dump sites have been visited and walk Songwe in all the illegal dump sites across Akure metropolis.
The commissioner warned traders on the walkways as well as those dumping refuse on major roads to desist from such acts and obey environmental laws, noting that government has established a disciplinary court for defaulters.
A new down has come up as far as managing our environment is concerned. We have gotten our environmental court where we will try offenders and fought with anybody caught misusing the environment. You drop waste illegally or haphazardly across the zone, you will be arrested summarily, then you go to court, you face the wrath of the Lord. You cannot, by whatever standard, stay back, watching helplessly, looking at people eroding all the good things that Mr. Governor or the government of Ondo State has placed.
Kule Ario, Osrc News.
Now taking updates of the explosion incident in Oyo State. Governor Seyi Makinde has directed that medical bills of all victims of the explosion that rocked the city on Tuesday night be covered by government. The governor gave Meanwhile, residents of Ibadan have counted their losses after several houses and properties worth millions of naira were destroyed following an explosion that rocked Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Among the affected areas were a section of Governor's Office, Secretariat, Oyo State House of Assembly, the residence of the former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Chief Bola Ige, some buildings at Olugberu, New Garage, Basharun, Songo, Eleyele, among others. As of press time, rescue workers believe that some persons were still trapped under the rubble and efforts were ongoing to rescue them as those injured are receiving treatment at the hospital.
It's incomprehensible. We thought this would happen in places like Zamfara, in the far north. So if dynamite can trigger off such a devastating effect, you can imagine what happens in the plateau. This is old Bodija. This is a residential location, predominantly owner occupied. So many old people have been taken from their houses last night. We've got friends who have their personal effects taken out. Honestly speaking, we feel for them, and I hope that, I will say that the government has been proactive because the bomb squad team have been here since 2 last night. I spoke with some of the personnel, but it's just not enough because it doesn't end here. Insurance, of course, will be the order of the day.
Irúgbà tí kíní dùn sí àwa rí pé gbogbo òkúta tó fọ́n sókè àti irin tó fọ́n sókè gbogbo ẹ̀fọ́n dọ́dọ̀ wa ó lu gbogbo rúùfù wa àbáláyé mi ò yé yín ìgbà tá a rìn débi ẹgbẹ́ epicenter transformer tó wà ń bẹ̀ ó ti gbaná yàtọ̀ sádùúgbò yìí gbogbo àwọn èèyàn tó ń fò wá náà ní kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ báwọn ṣe gbọ́ gbà òun yẹn ni gbogbo glass àwọn ń fọ́ ni rúùfù ń fọ́ ni gbogbo ẹ̀ ṣe pọ̀ èmi rí transformer tó ń ṣe kíni tó ń ṣáná tó ń gbọ̀n lẹ́yìn ìgbà tí gbà òun yẹn kọ́kọ́ ṣẹlẹ̀.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has interrogated the Accountant General of the Federation $2 million fraud involving the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Dr. Betta Edu. The AGF was squeezed by EFCC interrogators at the Anti-Graft Agency's headquarters in Abuja. The AGF was not detained and she was released with no condition after she made explanation in writing to the investigators during interrogation. However, she told interrogators that she didn't approve the memo from Minister Edu for payment into a private account. In the meantime, the Nigeria Customs Service, NCS, has set 1.13 trillion naira as a revenue target for the Tinkan Island Port Command. The Customs Area Controller, Tinkan Island Port Command Controller Dera Nadi said the target allocated to Tinkan Island Port Command to acquire demurrage. The traditional ruler of Agolese Chukwu in Agwata More than 200 ancient artifacts have been returned to Peru. It's part of a drive to reclaim items smuggled out of the country or kept at international museums. Kemisola Jomo has details.
Parts of Peru's history have returned home. Sculptures, textiles, ceramics, and other works of indigenous art, some of them more than 2,000 years old. They tell the story of a time before the Spanish conquest.
Lithic elements such as the club heads and sculptures are typical in the Inca culture. There are also various instruments and textile fragments belonging to the Shankai culture, a piece of metal with Shimu cultural affiliation. There is also a group of ceramic pieces from the Moche, Nazca, Lambayeque, Inca and other cultural styles.
Some of the items were smuggled out of the country illegally. Others are being held in museums or by private collectors. Most were handed back to Peru voluntarily, but not all.
More than 40 pieces were seized by the United States Department of Homeland Security and the German police, which unfortunately proves the importance of further strengthening international cooperation to combat trafficking of cultural property around the world.
Peru has repatriated 840,000 looted antiquities over the past 2 years. It is seen as a success as indigenous communities worldwide reckon with the colonial past and campaign for the return of stolen artifacts. Kebi Solojum, Osrc News.
A Palestinian shop owner in the occupied West Bank was used as human shield by Israeli forces after they raided his mobile phone store. Ongoing Israeli raids in the territory have caused a war spike in violence there for almost 2 decades. Dutch shipping companies fear they'll be targeted by Houthi rebels after the Netherlands became the only EU country to support US and UK strikes last weekend in Yemen. That's according to the Netherlands Ship Owner Association. Tensions in the Red Sea affecting more than 40% of trade from Asia to Europe, causing delays in Europe's largest port in Rotterdam. Olumide Adewood has details.
The Monaco Maersk arriving at Rotterdam port 33 days after departed from Malaysia, more than a week later than planned. Danish shipping company Maersk decided to divert the vessel and dozens of others to avoid possible attacks in the Red Sea by Houthi forces in Yemen. Containers carrying food, clothes, computers and medicine eagerly awaited by buyers forced to adjust their production schedules.
A very important effect is that the cost of transport are increasing. The container carriers have increased their tariffs. They have introduced surcharges related to the disturbance at the moment. But it is also the value of time, the value of the cargo that is important.
He estimates that for each container, ship carrying around 15,000 containers with a longer route will add around $16 million in additional cost. Houthi rebels have increased attacks in the Red Sea in recent weeks in solidarity with people in Gaza, demanding Israel to stop its military campaign. To avoid the Suez Canal, some large shipping companies are taking the near 6,000 kilometers longer route around the Cape of Good Hope, depending on the size of the ships. This means between 7 to 12 days more travel time. Business in Rotterdam Port, the main gateway to Europe, had already been slow due to decreased demand caused by high inflation. The Netherlands is the only European country that is part of the US Red Sea coalition that has performed airstrikes on Houthi targets in the past weeks. The shippers feared they now could become targets.
The only thing that the Netherlands did in the coalition is to protect that freedom of navigation, and that is what we stand for. It comes with a consequence, and in that perspective we ask our Dutch government to please to enlarge the coalition so that the Dutch seafarers and the Dutch vessels are not being at risk anymore.
Ships owners have asked the government to put pressure on the European countries like Germany or France to join the coalition too. This crisis shows once again how vulnerable international trade routes have become and how Europe's economies can easily be affected. Olumide Adeluoye, Osrc News.
The arrival of Rohingya refugees in coastal Indonesia has sparked community unrest in some areas. In total, more than 1,700 refugees have arrived in the province of Aceh since mid-November. Here's the detail.
In PD, this might look like a serene setting, but for this community of Rohingya refugees, the time living at this beach in Indonesia's Aceh province is just the latest chapter in a lifetime of trauma and pain. Many of them say they experienced torture in Myanmar, witnessed the murders of loved ones by security forces, and in Bangladesh, they lived through hardships and poverty and overcrowded and increasingly dangerous camps. This mother says she has an additional reason to leave Bangladesh.
The doctor in Bangladesh said that the treatment was not possible. I can't express my pain as a mother. My son is hurting.
But life is challenging and uncertain here too. The son has cuts all over his legs from dragging his body across the sand. The UN Refugee Agency, which is responsible for their food, medicine and other expenses, says it needs the local government to designate secure sites for the refugees. But local authorities say the situation is complicated.
We have tried to find them temporary shelter, but people reject them. Before we arrive in a location, local people already gathered to protest, so the government can't force it.
In recent months, hate and disinformation of the Rohingya refugees have spread from social media to villages nearby.
If I see more Rohingya at sea, I will tell them to leave. We won't allow them to disembark.
I saw many videos about them in social media. They eat nice food, but us, we have to go to work, go to the sea to get food.
But life for these Rohingya refugees is far from easy. They spend all day and night exposed to the elements, the heat, rain and insects. Abdul says he only left Bangladesh for his children to have a better life.
My wife got sick before reaching the shore and she died on the boat. She dreamt of our children getting educated.
Now he's unsure whether that dream can ever be realized.
And Sri Lanka's government hospitals have ground to a halt as tens of thousands of health workers went on strike against an increase in benefits paid only to doctors. The Health Trade Union Alliance says it wants economic justice and the same treatment for other health workers. Kamsola Ojomo again as details.
More trade union action and demands for our government trying desperately to recover from a creeping economic crisis. Tens of thousands of health workers in Sri Lanka began a 24-hour work stoppage on Tuesday. They want the same benefit increase that doctors received last week.
We are opposed to this economic policy because it's unequal. The government has said it has money. Therefore, it's time we launched a struggle to demand our share.
The strike by the 100,000-strong Health Trade Union Alliance affected services at hospitals throughout the country. Those seeking treatments were angry and frustrated. According to reports, many persons outside the National Hospital in Colombo.
If we have money, we don't need to come here. I got up early this morning to come for my regular clinic visit. The doctor wrote out the prescription, but there's no one to dispense it.
I came by three-wheeler taxi with my wife who is pregnant. I have a skin condition and she's in the maternity unit. They gave us a list of medicines to buy, but I don't have the money.
Hundreds of military personnel were on standby to help. Health Minister Dr. Ramesh told people the decision to increase doctors' allowances was prompted by a large number leaving the country. 1,300 doctors have migrated and another 5,000 are waiting to leave. But he said the demands of others in the health sector will also be addressed.
We need to refer this matter to the Finance Ministry, for which we have done the background work now. So, but it's, we have to do the calculations and see how best, we are talking about another 100,000 workers of the government sector. So we have to see the numbers and see, we have to do our maths at a background and see how best we can allocate their request on the long run.
Unions say the government's decision to favor just one group within the health field is unacceptable. Kebisola Ojomo, Osrc News.
And that concludes World at Noon. Many thanks for your time and for being a part of it. Good afternoon.